Hi, this is Jason Nickleby, Assistant Director with the Minnesota State High School League, and this is basketball officiating training tape number 7. We have a couple of weeks to go with the regular season, so just touching base on some mechanics pieces, um, violations, front court coverage, and so forth. Again, just trying to fine tune as we head into the postseason. Doing a nice job. Let's keep it up. Again, when we're looking at these plays, not picking on any one official or crew or player or team, just trying to learn from these plays and incorporate them into our pregame discussions. Again, as we prepare to finish the regular season and head into the section tournaments. So, with that, let's take a look at some plays. On this one, we have a steal and a quick transition play to the other end of the court, and we're going to have a foul called by the new lead. So, um, first, definitely a foul. You can see there on the replay, gets a piece of her wrist. I really like the hustle. We try to get down to that lane line intersection with the end line, get stationary at the time of contact. As we've talked about many times, if we can't make it to that spot, then we need to stop at the free throw line extended and take this play from the typical center position. But we do a nice job of hustling, getting in position, get stationary at the time of contact, and that is what we want to do. Especially, this is especially tough when we have a quick steal like this. So, good job of that. The only thing I would say about this play that we should think about making an adjustment is our spot mechanics, our presentation after we've called the foul. So, like everything about it leading up to it, but remember, we should only have one arm in the air. We don't want to have two. Um, in this case, we have a fist and we have the number of shots in the other hand. We should do the presentation of what the foul is. So she hacked her on the arm, and we're going to do that signal. And we should do that out to the side. In this case, we do it out front of our body, so it makes it look like we're calling an intentional foul. So just take a look at the spot mechanics here. Let's try to clean it up a little bit. Just the fists in the air, then the signal for what the player did to commit the foul, and then indicate the number of shots out to the side, not with the opposite hand of the fist. And that will clean up our spot mechanics and will provide a little bit clearer communication so that they don't believe that we have a a walled up signal or that we have an intentional foul or things like that that could be communicated in error based on our signaling and our presentation. So good hustle, good positioning, stationary, all that. Let's take a look at our spot mechanics and see how we can clean that up. On this one, let's talk about front court positioning and our movements and then traveling violations. So in this particular play sequence, let's watch the movements and positioning of the trail. Remember that unless we absolutely have to move, our position really should be at the 28-foot mark, and we should just turn our body, turn our head, and officiate the action from there. Really, no reason to move on this play, and we do it really abruptly and quickly, which has uh, the higher risk of missing plays or being not as accurate. So let's just stay put at the 28-foot mark and take this action from there. And then on the traveling violation part, remember we're picking up the pivot foot. If they pick it up and put it back down before passing or shooting, we would have a traveling violation. In this particular case, when the passer picks up the dribbler, or the dribble that is, the left foot is the pivot foot, right foot down, left foot back down again, and then pass. So this would be a traveling violation. It's correctly called. And this is the trail's primary responsibility because the dribble drive originates from his primary coverage area. So if there was contact here, it would be the lead's responsibility, but because it is a traveling violation piece, this is the trail's responsibility and it is correctly called. So remember, picking up the pivot foot, if it goes up and then down before passing or shooting, it would be a traveling violation. That is what happens here. And finally, take a look at our front court positioning. Let's move only if need be. Move to improve your view, your angle, etc. But don't move if we don't need to. In this particular play, we don't need to. Let's stay put at the 28-foot mark. We have a defensive rebound here, and we're going to get out in transition. And the crew does a nice job of hustling down to get in position to officiate on the other half of the court. And we have a traveling violation that is called by the center. So um, this is the primary responsibility of the center. It's on his half of the court. So he should be picking this player up and making a decision on the pivot foot. Which foot is it? How was it established? Does it go up and then back down prior to completing the passing action? If so, it would be a traveling violation. So let's take a look at it here on the replay. You'll notice when the player receives it, you could put him off the ground, and that would allow him to make either the pivot foot, if that's what you decide. But either way, he does pick up uh, both feet at one point or another during this sequence and puts them both back down again prior to completing the dribble and then the pass to his teammate after that. And remember, if we pick up our pivot foot and then start a dribble, that is a traveling violation as well. So this is a traveling violation for a couple of reasons. First, because he picks up the pivot foot and then begins a dribble. And then secondly, he picks up the pivot foot or both pivot feet, depending on which one you go with, and puts them both back down prior to the dribble and then the pass. So this is definitely a traveling violation, one we want called, and we do a nice job of hustling into position to see this and making the call. On this one, I really like our front court coverage, our movements, how we take this play. Only one suggestion or comment on our primary coverage areas, but overall, a really nice example of positioning where we need to be to see action most effectively, and just a comment on our primary coverage on the end of this play. So we have a foul that's called. The basket is good. Definitely a foul. Number three gets a piece of the shooter's arm, and we want to protect shooters, and so we do a nice job of that here. Notice the trail works well beneath the 28-foot mark here to get beneath this matchup, to see space, is in perfect position to see if there's any contact initiated with the dribbler out top. So this is excellent. C is in good position, lead, excellent position. We can maybe mirror the basketball a little bit more, but overall, really good. Um, Again, the only thing I would comment about on this play is it's definitely a foul. Absolutely is one we want called. However, remember when we have contact that is not a secondary defender play in the paint, we are going to draw a line right down the middle of the paint, and anything that is closest to the center is their responsibility, and anything that's closer to the lead is their responsibility. And if you notice in this play, this is not a secondary defender block charge play. Um, so this needs to be handled with primary coverage areas of drawing the line down the middle of the paint, and action that's closest to the center needs to be handled by the center. In this particular case, it's closest to the C. The C needs to take this, and leads, we can officiate across the paint. If we want to officiate over there, then we need to initiate a rotation. In this case, probably not going to be able to, so we need to trust our partner, trust the C that they will make the call here, and if they don't, they don't. But we don't want to officiate across the paint. Let's let C have this play. It's in their primary coverage, and let's trust them to do that. On this play, we have a ball that is dumped into the post in the paint, and he is called for an offensive foul by the center. Let's take a look at this action and talk about our mechanics as well. Um, Tough play. Understand why, from our vantage point, we would potentially come up with an offensive foul. Number 23 does put his arm out in advance, and then the player goes down, and so it does give the appearance of an offensive foul. But this is a flop. Now, remember, we don't have flopping or that kind of rule in high school basketball. All we have is legal guarding position and whether it's maintained or established legally and so forth. So, first, mechanically, if we do have an offensive foul, let's not turn away from players. Let's use our left arm in this case to signal an offensive foul and keep our body square to the court and keep our eyes on players. So that's the first thing that I would say. And again, this is on the other side of the paint and initiates outside the paint even. So this is definitely the center's play, and the lead does a nice job of staying out of this and allowing the center to make a decision. But remember, we don't have a flop rule in high school basketball. So what we would want called here is a blocking foul because the defender does not maintain legal guarding position when he flops, and if it affects the dribble or the shot, which it clearly does, this should be a blocking foul, and 2 shots should be given to number 23. So um, try not to anticipate a certain call. Be prepared for the different possibilities, but we don't want to reward defensive players for uh, falling backwards prior to contact. They need to maintain that legal guarding position. They need to take the contact in the torso if they want to draw that offensive foul. In this case, he does not do that. He falls over prior to the contact and then affects the shooter's rhythm, balance, quickness, and so forth. So this should be a blocking foul. If this flopping action does not cause a disruption to the shot or contact with the player, the shooter, then we would not have a foul in that case. We'd have a no call. But in this case, it appears that he falls over prior to contact and then affects the shot. So therefore, the proper call in this play would be a blocking foul and 2 shots for the offense. On this play, I want to talk about off-ball officiating and something that as a group, we're not as good at keeping our eyes on off ball action, and we tend to keep an eye on the ball a little bit more than we should. And especially with 3 officials, there's really no reason to be staring at the basketball. Um, Especially when we have plenty of players and action going on in our area. In this particular play, we have a dribble drive down the lane line, kicks it off to the other side, and then we're going to have an offensive foul called on number 44, the offense by the lead. Um, and again, we don't do the best job at off ball officiating. In this particular case, we pick it up, and I believe it's a correct call. There's a little bit of acting going on by the defensive player. However, number 44 does put his hip into the defensive player and clears him out of the paint, and he ultimately goes to the floor. So this is definitely a foul, definitely one we want called. We need to be diligent about our off-ball officiating. We are in this case on dribble drives, especially where we kick it out to the other side. The C can be responsible for that, and Lee needs to be responsible for this action right in front of him, and he picks this up and does a nice job of calling this. So, good job off-ball officiating. Let's be more diligent about it, and let's pick this stuff up early in the game and try to uh, get this stopped early. If this kind of thing is happening, let's call it early. In this particular case, at the end of a close game, the right call, but we just want to make sure we're picking it up as early as we can. But again, good off ball officiating by the crew in this play. On this play sequence, we have really good coverage and mechanics. We do a nice job of handling this whole sequence really well, just like our positioning and our coverage and our judgment as well. So just a good example of very nice officiating. So first, um, and you'll see the block shot here, but first uh, we officiate this play at the basket well. The center doesn't bail. He helps with the officiating in the backcourt. And then when we're coming up the floor, the trail maintains a good cushion. Remember, we want to be about 2 steps behind the ball handler. We do that here. We come onto the floor a little bit to assist with getting a better angle to officiate the matchup in the backcourt. So that is really well done. And then when we have the steal and go back towards the basket, we hustle to get into proper position to officiate the ensuing action. Get to, uh, we want to get to the end line, get stationary. Let's get past the end line. I know in these bigger courts, we tend to figure that we're where we need to be and we need to go another few steps, but um, get to the lane line, get stationary, and then a nice job of not anticipating a foul here. Even though she takes a pretty good swipe at it, it appears to be a clean block and a good no call. And again, good job by the center getting down to get into position and help as well. So really good coverage, good judgment, but overall, just a nice job of center staying back and helping, not bailing. Good job by the new trail of officiating the backcourt sequence and then getting back to officiate the play at the basket. So, very nice mechanics and positioning and judgment by the crew on this play. Okay, let's talk front court positioning and philosophy on this one. So, Trail does a nice job of adjusting his position again to see space. We get beneath this matchup here out top, and then we just stay put and officiate this dribble drive matchup. And then once it gets into the lead's primary coverage area, as the trail, we're going to leave it and allow the lead to make a decision on contact and legality, etc. Now, on this particular play, the lead does call a foul on number 22 as he takes that swipe as the shooter goes up to the basket. And we ultimately decide that this is not a shooting foul and we're going to have a throw in. I would say, from a philosophy standpoint, that the vast majority of the time when we say that the foul occurred on the floor, so to speak, that we are wrong. Typically, they have gathered the basketball to make that upward motion towards the basket at the time of contact, which I believe he does here. So I'm good with the foul, absolutely good with that. Definitely the lead's primary responsibility to get this. So that's good. The only thing is we need to have a patient whistle on this. 1,000, 1,000 whistle, and let's give them 2 shots. And when we go with a really quick whistle, it can be difficult to give shots, and we really need to do that here. The defense gained a benefit by us not giving them shots. So have a patient whistle. If they gather the basketball and the contact occurs in that time frame, we need to give the shooter shots here. So um, good job on primary coverage. Good job of the trail, position adjust, and trusting partner to have this. But let's allow for the shooting motion to continue and give 2 shots on a play like this. A lot of things to consider on this sequence, both judgment, philosophy, and rules wise. So we have a transition play, we have some contact here in the paint, and then a blocked shot. The defense gets the rebound, and then they throw it out of bounds. So again, a lot going on for the officials to sort out. And let's start with that initial action in transition. So you see here on the replay there, you don't see the lead up to the contact as you see it here, but we potentially have a foul on number 11 of the defense from behind that we don't call, but something we need to consider there. It seems that contact is made, and this would be the center's primary responsibility. And then if we don't call that, then we need to evaluate legal guarding position for the defender in the paint with regards to number 11 White. And it appears that he plays through the torso of this defensive player who has established legal guarding position, and the contact is significant. This is a offensive foul, one that we would want called. We can still have an offensive foul during an interrupted dribble, which is what we have here. And then when the ball is thrown away after this block shot, which is a nice no call, remember that we will have a 20-second shot clock, and we will take the throw in from the spot where the ball goes out of bounds. We will not move this throw in to the 28-foot mark. If it was a foul or violation, then we would. In this case, we do not. We have a deflection out of bounds, so therefore it will be at the spot. The throw-in will be at the spot where it goes out of bounds. The lead should come over to the other side, should bounce the ball to the thrower, and then the new trail will administer the throw-in, the count, and the chop. So that's how we should handle that mechanically. So again, a lot going on here. See if we can pick up the first foul in this sequence. If we don't, then we have to call an offensive foul on number 11 and pick this up. This is too much contact to ignore. We need to have a whistle of some kind here on that contact, and the primary responsibility for ruling on that would be the lead because it involves a secondary defender play in the paint. This should be ruled on by the lead. And then if we don't, then we have the throw in on the sideline, which is the end result of this play sequence. On this play, we come down in transition, and I like how the crew gets into good initial position to officiate in the front court, trails at the 28-foot mark. Lead is mirroring the basketball and in perfect position to view this action right at the block. So really well done on our positioning and being in the right spot to view what we need to view in our primary coverage area. And so you notice that when the ball is dumped down into the block, the trail stays put, helps officiate the feet relative to a traveling violation. And in this particular case, number 24 of the offense plays through a defender that has established legal guarding position, plays through her torso, and is properly called for a player control foul. And remember our mechanics for this year and moving forward, optional to use the punch or to use a hand behind the head to indicate a team control, player control foul, as in this case. So you can use either mechanic, but perfect position by the crew to see this action and a proper call for a player control foul by the lead. Well done. Okay, same game here. Again, crew in good position to see what they need to see. I think the only thing I would recommend or say about our positioning is the center. It would be good if we were lower towards the free throw line extended, but the lead in particular on this play is in perfect position to see this dribble drive right down the lane line, can look at the secondary defender to see first, does she establish initial legal guarding position? Secondly, where does she establish it? Is it outside of the restricted area or inside? And then thirdly, is it maintained legally? And I believe that it is. Don't get fooled by the right foot that is moving to the left. We establish legal guarding position with 2 feet facing our opponent, and then we maintain it legally, and we can do so by moving obliquely or laterally. In this case, the defender does not move the left foot, only moves the right foot. Her body maintains that verticality position. Therefore, when the offensive player plays through her chest, through her torso, this is a player control foul and is properly called by the lead. So Very well done by the crew on this last play that we just showed and this one to pick up the defender, establish that they had legal guardian position, and then watch the contact and make the call. So really well done by the crew. Great positioning, great knowledge of the rules, and great application as far as putting air in the whistle and calling a player control foul in this play. Very well done. On this play sequence, we have a transition play. Our crew does a nice job of getting down into good initial position, especially the trail working low to see this action. And then we officiate the rebounding action well. So um, all that is good, our positioning, our judgment, etc. I just wanted to point out some mechanics pieces and some rule pieces. So we have a missed shot, offensive rebound, sort of, and then the ball is deflected out of bounds right in front of the center. So a couple things. One, if we get a offensive rebound, the shot clock should be reset to 20 seconds, and then it should run down from there. And then when it goes out of bounds and it's going to stay with the offense, then it will be at 19 or 18 or whatever it is. If we don't believe that control was established by the offensive team here, and the ball ultimately gets deflected out of bounds by the defense as it does here, then we would put the shot clock at 20 seconds at that point, and then would put the ball in play through a throw in, which is what we do. Then remember, as we talked about on a previous play, when we have a deflection out of bounds, the throw in will take place from that spot and will not be moved to the 28-foot mark. And the lead should administer the throw in initially by bouncing the ball to the thrower, and then the trail will chop and take the count. So notice here that the lead gives the ball to the thrower and then goes back to officiate the action in the paint. This is precisely what we should do mechanically. Um, we bounce the ball, which we didn't do here. We should bounce the ball to the thrower and then go back to officiate our space in the paint, and then the trail will administer the throw in as far as the chop and the count is concerned. So very well done on that part mechanically on handling the shot clock and the throw in responsibilities from a mechanics and positioning standpoint on this play. So very well done by the crew. And we will end this training tape on another example of a crew being in good position to view action, officiating our primary coverage area really well and trusting our partners, and then moving about in our post foul dead ball responsibilities with purpose and in the correct manner by the mechanics manual. So excellent job by the crew on this play. We're in perfect position to view this action. Notice that the C gets lower to officiate this action in the paint, but then realizes this is contact involving a dribble drive in the paint involving a secondary defender. So this is the lead's play. This is lead's primary responsibility, and the center does a great job of trusting the lead to take this. If we do have a whistle, we're just going to post and hold, but we don't. We let the lead have this. And then notice the lead does use the hand behind the head signal, which is an option that we can use this year. We would want to put a fist in the air to indicate that we have a foul and then do that signal. But overall, we do a really nice job of being in the correct position, picking up this secondary defender. Does he establish legal guardian position? If so, is it outside of the restricted area? And does he maintain it legally? And it appears that he does, and the offensive player plays through the torso and is properly called for a player control foul. So nice job by the crew. Really well done by the C and the lead on this play. Good job of trust and position adjust by the center, and then a good job of picking up this defender and making the correct player control foul on this play by the lead. Well done by the crew. Okay, that will do it for training tape number 7. Some plays to think about on our mechanics, on our front court coverage, throw-in rules, shot clock, and then player control, responsibilities, and legality. So some things to talk about in our pre-games. Uh, Player safety, number one. Let's keep that in mind out there. Any non-basketball plays we really need to get out of the game, and we need to address that really physical play that falls outside of the rules. We really need to address that early on in the contest. So let's work on that in the next couple of weeks as we lead into playoffs. Um, Long season, but we're doing a nice job. Keep up the great work. Again, this is not required for viewing. It will be placed on YouTube and is optional for officials to view. Just encouraging you to use the mechanics manual to frame your pregame. And again, even though we're late in the season, continuing to be diligent about our pregame and making sure we're on the same page as a crew. So, with that, uh, enjoy your games this evening, Friday, and on the weekend. And we will talk to you next week.